Now let's learn about the list comprehension. So list comprehension is a tool for transforming one list into another list. So if you are familiar with the approach of functional programming, you can think of the list comprehension as the syntactic sugar for the filter followed by the map. So map and filter approach we do in Python as well as in other languages. Well, we could do that using the list comprehension. So now list comprehension makes it easier and faster to perform the transformation of the list. Now we could also do the list transformation other ways, for example the normal approach or even the map and filter approach, but list comprehension makes it a little faster. So let's look at some of the examples. So let's first start off by performing things in the normal approach. So let's say I've got these list of numbers. And let's say I would love to perform the mapping and filtering. So for instance, so let's say I would love to return the even number and then cube them. Okay, so for that, in my normal approach, okay, so let's create an empty list. Let's say this cubed even, so it's going to be empty initially, and I'm going to go to each of the numbers. So for yarn in numbers, and now I want to check, okay, if n modulus 2 is equal to 0. If this is the case, I would love to append in my cubed1, so cubed1 dot append by transforming it. So transforming it in the power of 3. So we cube it and then we append it in this cubed1. So if I try to see it, so if I, let's say, print it out, so we only have the even numbers which are now cubed. Now two things have been done here. One is the filtering, so n modulus 2 equal to 0 to filter it in terms of even and then cube it. Okay, now I could also do this the another map and filter approach. So I could use the map and filter approach. See, we have this map and filter class in Python which takes in the function as the argument. So we normally pass the lambda function on this map and filter classes. So let's create a variable, let's call it cubed1. So here first we're gonna map it in terms of cubing, and then we'll filter the odd number out. Okay, so let's use the map. Now this map takes two arguments. One is the function, and another one is the iterable. So the function is going to be the lambda. Okay, so if you're not familiar with lambda, I have made a video on this lambda function. You can check that out. So let's have the lambda. Let's go through each of the numbers. Let's write yarn, and now we need to power this. So power yarn 3. So we mapped it into the cube form. Okay, but now we need the iterable. Okay, now in the iterable, I would want it to be the list which has been filtered. So I would want the filtered list right here, which means I can just directly write the filter. So again, it's going to take the two argument. The first one is the function, second one is the iterable. So take lambda. Let's also return yarn. Okay, in this case, yarn modulus 2 is equal to 0, and the iterable is going to be my numbers. So we first mapped it, and then in the second argument we pass the filter method. Okay, and this is going to return the actual iterable as well. Now if I try to see the output, as you can see, okay, we get this map object at certain location. This is because we need to convert this into list. Okay, it only mapped it, but to print it out, so we have the list here now. So this is the map and filter approach. Now this looks quite fancy, and it looks quite long as well. So there is even another better approach, which is the list comprehension approach. So let's create this cubed1. Let's call it cubed1 2. So it's going to be equal to, so I can directly perform it inside our list. And so when you look at it here, we perform the power, we also perform the filtering. So what we can do is we could return the output as the power of the yarn3. Now, what is my yarn? Well, for that I can use the for loop. So for yarn in numbers, okay, and now I want to check, okay, only for the even number. So n modulus 2 is going to be equal to 0. Simple as that. So for yarn in numbers, and if n modulus 2 is equal to 0, perform the power. Okay, this is the output. And if I print it out, as you can see, we get the exact same thing. So we use three different ways, three different approaches to return the exact same output. And the list comprehension approach is the fastest and also the shortest. It also looks quite readable as well as compared to this use of this map and filter approach. Now let's look at another example where we have this nested form. Okay, so for example, let's create a nested list. Let's have 1 2 3 5 6 7 8 and 9. Now let's I would love to flatten this list. Now the word list I would love to, well, from this nested list I would love to convert it into a single list. So using the normal approach, let's first create an empty list. Let's call it flattened list. So it's going to be equal to empty initially. And now let's go through each of them. So for each list in my nested list, so I'm going to go through each of these lists in the first loop, okay, and go to each of the item as well. So for n in each list, now I'm going to append the item to this flattened list. So the flattened list dot append, I'm going to append yan. Now if I try to print it out, as you can see, it has been appended, okay, into a single list. So you could also do this using the list comprehension. So let's create the list, okay, and now here, okay, my output is my yarn. So let's return n as the output, okay, and now perform all the operation here. So we have two for loops, so let's perform two for loop inside our list. So for first one is this for each list in nested list. So for each list in nested list, and again another for, say for yarn in each list, for yarn in each list, return yarn. So this is the one that gets returned, okay. So return n in the list, okay, for each list in nested list, for n in each list we return yarn. And if I try to print it out, as you can see, we get the output, and it's quite seamless. So as compared to writing multiple lines of code, well, you can just perform it in a single line, okay, in the nested form as well. So this has been a tutorial about the list comprehension.